The Last Resort 1. Chapter 1. The Invitation. Sarah Matthews stared at her laptop screen, the blue light casting shadows across her cramped studio apartment. Outside, Chicago's winter winds howled against her windows, carrying stinging pellets of snow. The email seemed to pulse on her screen. Congratulations. You've won an exclusive weekend stay at the historic Evergreen Lodge. As a freelance photographer struggling to make ends meet, the timing couldn't have been better. Her last client had canceled, leaving her bank account as barren as the winter landscape. The email detailed the prize: 3 nights in a luxury suite, all meals included, and exclusive access to the lodge's pristine surroundings. Perfect for her portfolio, she thought, already imagining the dramatic shots she could capture. The lodge's website showed a magnificent wooden structure nestled among snow-covered pines, its windows glowing with warm light. What caught her eye was the fine print at the bottom: winners chosen based on artistic merit and sensitivity to capturing the extraordinary. The drive up took longer than expected. Her GPS failed 2 hours into the journey, forcing her to rely on old-fashioned paper maps she'd fortunately packed. The roads grew narrower, the snow deeper, and the trees closer to the road, their branches reaching like gnarled fingers across her path. As dusk approached, the temperature plummeted to -20, and her car's heater struggled against the cold. When she finally arrived, the lodge emerged from the swirling snow like a mirage. It was grander than the website photos suggested. 3 stories of massive timber and stone, with a steep-pitched roof bearing the weight of heavy snow. But something was off. No smoke rose from any of the 4 giant chimneys. No lights illuminated the windows. No other vehicles marked the parking area. The main entrance doors, massive oak panels with intricate carvings, swung open at her touch. The lobby was a cathedral to luxury gone to seed. Dust motes danced in the beam of her flashlight, and the air held the metallic tang of approaching snow. At the reception desk, a single envelope waited, her name written in elegant cursive. Welcome, Sarah Matthews, to your perfect winter getaway. Room 313. Chapter 2. The Empty Lodge. The key from the envelope was old brass, heavy and cold in her hand. Sarah's footsteps echoed across the marble floor as she explored the ground level. The grand dining room could seat 100 guests, each place meticulously set with fine china and silver, as if expecting dinner service any minute. Crystal chandeliers hung silent above, their facets collecting dust instead of reflecting light. In the library, leather-bound books lined walls that stretched 2 stories high. A spiral staircase of wrought iron led to a second-level gallery. Here, she found the guest book, its pages yellow with age. The entries told a strange story. 10 years of visitors, each arriving alone, each writing their last entry with increasing desperation. The mirrors show things they shouldn't. The walls whisper at night. They're watching, always watching. The final entry, dated exactly 1 year ago. God help me. They're in the walls. Don't listen when they call your name. Behind a loose panel, Sarah discovered newspaper clippings that made her blood run cold. The Evergreen Lodge, built in 1932 by Maxwell Blackwood, had a dark history. Blackwood, a railroad tycoon with an obsession for the occult, had constructed the lodge on sacred ground despite warnings from local tribes. The first winter it opened, 23 guests and Blackwood himself vanished during a blizzard. The bodies were never found. A sound like distant chimes drew her attention. Following it, she found herself in a conservatory, its glass ceiling heavy with snow. Dead plants filled ornate pots, their branches reaching like desperate hands toward the darkened sky. In the center stood a grand piano, its keys moving slowly, playing a melody no human hands could create. Continuing with chapters 3 to 5 in the next part to ensure we maintain quality and reach our target length. Would you like me to continue with the expanded version? Absolutely. Let me continue with the expanded version of The Last Resort from where we left off. Chapter 3. The Documentation. Sarah's professional instincts took over. Whatever was happening here, she needed to document it. Her camera, a top-of-the-line Canon she'd sacrificed 3 months, rent to buy, became her shield against the growing darkness. Each photo revealed more than her eyes could see. A shadow figure standing behind the piano, frost patterns on windows that formed screaming faces. A woman in period dress walking through walls. Most disturbing were the mirrors. In every photograph, They showed reflections that shouldn't exist. Her own face, but with eyes that weren't hers. Empty rooms filled with crowds of people in 1930s attire. Maxwell Blackwood himself, distinguished and cruel, standing behind her shoulder though she was alone. The digital timestamps made no sense. Some photos were dated hours before she'd arrived, others showed tomorrow's date. In one particularly chilling image of the main staircase, the metadata showed it was taken exactly 1 year ago by someone else's camera. Her phone buzzed. Despite having no signal since arrival, emails began flooding her inbox. Dozens of them, all identical to her winning notification, sent to different photographers over the past decade. A quick social media search revealed a pattern. Each recipient had vanished without a trace shortly after arriving at the lodge. The temperature dropped suddenly, her breath visible in the beam of her flashlight. Ice crystals formed on her camera lens, spelling out words. "We've been waiting for someone with your eye." Chapter 4. The Truth Revealed. As night deepened, the lodge awakened. The whispers started in the heating vents, calling her name in voices that sounded like cracking ice. Shadows solidified into translucent figures, the missing guests from decades past, each trapped in their moment of realization. A young woman in 60s clothing clutched a Polaroid camera. An elderly man held a Leica. A teenager with a modern DSLR. All photographers, all winners, all chosen. Maxwell Blackwood's spirit emerged from the grand mirror in the lobby, frost coating his spectral beard. "Welcome to my collection," he said, his voice like wind through frozen branches. "We've been seeking the perfect photographer to document our little gatherings. Someone who can capture the essence of what we do here." He explained the lodge's true purpose. Built on an ancient burial ground, it served as a portal between worlds. The native tribes had used it to communicate with their ancestors, until Blackwood corrupted it, turning it into a trap for creative souls. Each photographer added their vision to the lodge's power, their cameras becoming conduits to lure more victims. "Join us willingly," Blackwood offered, gesturing to the gathered spirits. "Become our official photographer. Capture the final moments of those who follow. Your work will appear in magazines, websites, social media, drawing more talented souls to our eternal gathering. Refuse, and well." He smiled, frost spreading across the floor towards Sarah's feet. "The lodge will take you anyway, but the process is far less pleasant." Chapter 5. The Final Shot. Sarah's mind raced as ice crept up her legs. Her photographer's eye, the very thing that had drawn her into this trap, noticed something the spirits had missed. Each mirror in the lodge acted as an anchor, drawing energy from the trapped souls. The grand mirror in the lobby was the centerpiece, its ornate frame carved with symbols similar to those in Blackwood's occult books. The spirits crowded closer, their collective cold stealing her breath. Sarah raised her camera one last time, pretending to accept her role. The flash fired, momentarily blinding the gathered spirits. In that instant of confusion, she swung her camera like a weapon, smashing it into the grand mirror. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The lodge screamed, a sound of shattering ice, splintering wood, and a century of trapped voices suddenly released. Reality fractured along with the mirror. Cracks appeared in every surface, light pouring through from somewhere beyond. The spirits were pulled toward the broken mirror, including Blackwood, his face contorted in rage and disbelief. Sarah ran through the chaos, mirror shards raining around her, each reflecting a different piece of the lodge's history. She burst through the front doors as the building began to collapse, the snow around it melting in perfect circles. Behind her, the lodge imploded into a vortex of light and shadow. When authorities arrived days later, they found no bodies, only hundreds of cameras spanning nearly a century of photography. Sarah's broken Canon was the last, and only, one to contain images of the truth. Though she survived, her relationship with photography changed forever. Winter light through her viewfinder never looked quite right, and in every photo she takes, a tiny reflection of the lodge appears in the corner, as if watching, waiting, gathering strength to rebuild itself. Sometimes, in her darkroom, she swears she can hear Maxwell Blackwood's voice. "Your lens captured our story, and now you'll never stop telling it."